I don't know when I started keeping it. There's no title, no folder, no formal record, but I know exactly who's on it. The list. People who hurt me, betrayed me, walked away when I needed them most. Some names I thought I'd moved on from. Some names I've circled again and again. I used to think the list made me stronger, but if I'm honest, it's made me tired. This season on Other People's Shoes, we're opening up the pages, not to fix it, to admit the list exists, and ask what it's really costing us to keep it. Welcome to Season 23, The List. Now, here's your host, Neil Matthews.
That's right, Neil Matthews. Other People's Shoes, how are you today in the land that you are in today? It got me thinking because our guest today is in a place that is on my bucket list. Just have a feeling the queen, that being Elizabeth, my wife, will never ever, will she ever say, gee, honey, let's go to Iowa. No one ever on their bucket list of places to travel is like, gee, I think we ought to go to Iowa. Ethel, what do you think? Like nobody has Iowa. My 9-year-old me, my 13-year-old Neil, yes, would say in the middle of 7th grade English class, weeping in the back when the movie Field of Dreams, when Kevin Costner says, do you want to have a catch? I was weeping. Mrs. Honeywell asked me if I was okay. That was super inappropriate of her. She should have just let me weep in the back quietly. But yes, we are going out to Iowa today. We're meeting a brand new friend. I'm very excited about her. She's never been on a podcast before, so let's judge her. Let's give her grace. But help me welcome in my new friend, Heather. Heather, how are you today?
I am wonderful, and I am in the great state of Iowa that is heaven, and it's okay. You don't need to come. I want less people to be here, to be honest. I'm okay with that.
Iowa has become famous, even more famous than Field of Dreams, Caitlin Clark. I know you're friends with her, so if you would just, maybe give her a good word when you see her around the playground, just say, hey, Neil would like to, walk in your shoes and know what it feels like to be Caitlin Clark.
Wouldn't that be something?
So you're not.
Confession time, Neil. I'm sports agnostic. I could care less. And I'm probably like one of the 10 people in the world that would say that. But no, I'm happy for her and for what she's accomplished, and so happy for anyone when they achieve something that seems unbelievable, for sure.
I'm finding out more and more people are sports. What'd you say? Agnostic?
Agnostic.
That's a good word.
That's my phrase. Yeah.
I might have to pass that along to the queen, that she is also sports agnostic.
We're in the minority. It's okay.
Yeah. I remember a couple of years ago, Alabama was playing Michigan, and she asked me who was playing, and I said Michigan, and she said, what's the other team? I said, it's Alabama. And she goes, ooh, I like Alabama. I lived in Alabama once. What do they say? Roll Tide? I'm like, stop. Just stop while you're ahead. Now she's going to punch me when she hears this. It's my little test to see if she's listening. So speaking of things that we're actually listening for and excited to hear about, help me with this. In Iowa, maybe on the Field of Dreams, or maybe in shopping malls or the coffee shops, what shoes, Heather, might we find you wearing?
Oh my gosh, I have been preparing for this. Right at this moment, spring and summer, it's going to be my red Jambu Mary Janes. And I love them. I love that they're red. I love that they're a little bit different, and they make me happy.
So they're red shoes.
They are.
Okay. Well, at least they're not flip-flops.
Flip-flops are not shoes. I concur.
I Googled it because a guest made me. Apparently, according to Google AI, they are actually considered a pair of shoes. I don't agree with Google. I think Google's wrong. A good friend of mine, Jody Howe, always says, don't go to Dr. Google. Well, in this case, don't go to Google because Google's wrong. They're not shoes. They're sandals, if anything. Fine. But shoes? No, I don't know. Anyway, so you even told us the brand, right? They're red.
Oh, yeah.
What are they again? Say the name one more time.
Mary Janes are Jambu.
Jambu.
Yeah.
Jambu. That's fun to say.
It is, and they are great shoes to wear.
Njimpa. It's also fun to say. It's a Seahawk player. His name is Jackson Smith Njimpa. I really like the name Njimpa. I don't know why.
Well, it's fun.
Nothing to do with what we're talking about, except in Iowa, maybe Njimpa, Iowa. Anyway, it's a stretch. It's a huge stretch, and now we're getting off track. So that's your fault, Heather. That's one. If we get the 3, we can't have a show anymore. You were part of that, as I jokingly sort of not really called it, the American Idol casting call. And this is actually kind of somewhat serious. I went to social media in regards to this idea of a list. I do that from time to time when I have a new season. I put it in some groups and I just throw it in the middle of the room and see what happens. One post in particular, I'm very proud of this as a creator. One post got actually 70 different responses, which I was like, wow, 70 people. Me as a creator, I'm like, you might be onto something, Neil. And it's this idea of a list and who's on that list.
Yep.
You resonated with that. You jumped on that. I won't say like a fat kid on a Twinkie because that might be rude, but you were really excited about that. The big question is of why. And then the second question really is, do you have a name on the list?
I'm really happy that 70 people were honest, at least, and admitted maybe they have a list or were understanding that there is a list, or maybe they're on somebody else's list. In my case, I have had lots of lists. I love lists. In my profession, I'm an analyst and I make lists for all kinds of things. I was so good at this list of people who've wronged me, harmed me, somehow caused my life to be the miserable state that it was, that I kept it for a long time. I realized at some point the damage it was doing to me. Fast forward several decades of my life, I decided that I needed to write about it. And that I needed to tell stories of my parents, of my ex-husbands, of my late husbands, of suicide survivorship, of coworkers, of friends, of siblings. That list had every aspect of my life and someone that I've had to forgive. And I wish that list would end, but I have to tell you, people get added to it almost all the time. The question is, for me, do I keep the list? Or have I moved forward to change the list to the people that I've been able to give the grace that I need to free myself, which is what forgiveness is to me. I could say I was a professional grudge keeper in my past, reformed maybe now.
So I used to go to a church. The pastor would say quite often, well, you're just malformed. And the first time I heard it, I was like, all right, I'm malformed. I've done some pottery. I've done some clay sculpting and things like that. Pottery teacher, Mrs. Strain, she would say that quite often when we would make pottery. Well, it's just malformed. We got to shape it again, reshape it. It never seemed derogatory when she said it. Back to this pastor, the first time I heard him say it, I was like, ooh, I remember that. And then the third, fourth, fifth, and then he said it to me, then it changed. It sort of stung. It sort of was like, wait, I'm malformed. I'm malformed? Like a question. I'm malformed? Wait, are we? Who's malformed? Heather, I bring that about. I wonder so many times, did you have maybe a malformation, that's a big word, about forgiveness? Maybe you just never learned how to forgive. What'd you say? Professional grudge holder?
Yes.
Is there a gold medal for that?
I could have been an Olympic athlete in that event. Should that be an event? Probably enter. It's interesting to think about malformed, that idea of creation in anything. So we start off maybe not being perfect, whatever we're trying to practice, we are malformed. In this particular case, I don't know that you're ever going to become formed so that you're perfect at forgiveness. I would say that I understood the word. I understood what it meant. I understood that I could be forgiven by God. I didn't necessarily understand that that required me to become better formed and to give grace to others. And that was the journey that I wrote about. Still working on it. I'm still forming.
You talk about how past relationships, you mentioned suicide.
I've had a lot of hard things. I spent a lot of time being angry.
How did you get over the anger? I feel like if I'm going to ask somebody the question, I should be willing to answer the question myself as a host. Yep. I don't know if that's good or bad. And so my give to you, and then maybe you give right back. Man, I put some people on my list in Sharpie. It is stinking hard to get Sharpie off of notebook paper. Let me just tell you, it's nearly impossible. You almost have to rip the sheet, start over, and go again. This season, I feel like I'm on a hero's quest. I'm hoping somebody can finally tell me once and for all how to forgive that person. No pressure, Heather. I'm sort of putting that on you.
We all have our own journey. It's like grief. There's like not a specific time frame. So some things that I really focused on, yes, I mentioned suicide. I mentioned an alcoholic. Or if I didn't, I'm mentioning it now. I think part of the journey for me, as silly as it might sound, was rooted in the 12 steps. I had started forgiveness before this relationship and before learning some of these skills. The first thing that I had to let myself do was to hurt. I had to not bury it. I had to not sweep it aside. I had to not pretend that sticks and stones break bones, but words will never hurt me. Words hurt me a lot. Ruminated on certain words. I still ruminate on words. I'm not to the point where I don't remember the hurt that caused. So I had to really give myself space to just acknowledge this happened. It was not good. Someone treated me very badly and it hurt. So as I started working through that hurt, I have a very deep-rooted faith system, and I turned to recognizing myself, Heather, the professional grudge keeper, was not capable of admonishing this wrong. It was bigger than me. In order to do that, I had to seek divine help. Really did require an understanding of someone else who suffered even more than I have or ever could. And that's our Savior, Jesus Christ. So in my faith system, when you talk about 12 steps, the first step is recognizing that you're powerless, that you cannot do this yourself. Actually, it kind of sets you free, because then you feel like, ooh, I'm not malformed. I'm not the malfunction here. It was never intended that I could do this by myself. Holding that grudge and holding that wrong, it would never resolve it. I wasn't capable of it. So it kind of let me off the hook when I realized, okay, this is wrong. This happened and I'm hurt and I'm sad. I can do something about it with someone else's help. That was the first step for me, is really understanding that and not sweeping it under the rug and just saying, no big deal. No, it hurts. Having the pastor call you out as malformed, that wouldn't feel good. That would be like a sting. I've never been actually punched or really physically abused. Thank God for that. I feel like those will heal faster than the words either we've used or have been used towards us. They hurt more to me.
I think you're onto something there. The wound will heal. The arm will eventually come out of the cast. The swollen lip will eventually lose its swelling. The bleeding eventually will stop. That goes away. It's those words that I feel like get stuck on repeat like a CD from the 90s. I do. Maybe sounds like similar to you. I just play it on repeat. I don't want to listen to the song. It just seems like it just plays and plays and plays. Maybe I swap out the CD and I'm like, okay, I finally got the nerve to take it out of the player. Okay, great. I take it out. I put in a new CD and the very first track is somebody different. It's the same message. How have you found your way to get around those words, or have you?
I have. I need to recognize that I've said some of those words. I would say that I was raised in a household where I was trained in verbal combat, and I know all the words, and I'm very good at using them. So one of the things that I can recognize, I've made mistakes, and I've done things that I'm not proud of. My mom taught me something really powerful. It is, no one is worthless in this life. You can always be a bad example. So that concept of bad example is the times I've said things and I know, and it hits you, I'm like Cupid with that arrow. I will hit you. I will hit my target. I know what to say. I know how to harm people with words. I decided that I no longer wanted to be that bad example. And so I'm watching my behavior. First of all, I had to realize if someone says something to me, it's really not probably about me. I learned projection. I don't know if you've ever figured that out, or you've heard people say things and you're just like, oh, wait a minute, that's not me at all. That's really you. You do not feel good about yourself. And so you're somehow trying to hurt me with your words. And when I learned that and figured it out, it was transformative to me. I decided that I no longer wanted to be that person. I didn't want to be that person that would hurt them. And if someone did that to me, I think, oh my goodness, wow, did that just come out of your mouth? Huh. You must be having a really hard day. And I can just let it roll off. Didn't used to be that way, but now I can just accept you are a super bad example in how you're treating other human beings. And that's sad. And I'm sorry for you. And I'm going to leave that there. And that's taken years of contemplative, actionable thought on my part to recognize that and to set it aside. So that's a tool I've used that's been very helpful. I think it would help others if they wanted to try it. It might help you.
Maybe. We'll see. We had a past season called Hungry at the end of last year. I came across this quote, was so profound, and I wish I could give credit to who wrote it so I can give proper credit. I'm big on that. Couldn't find it. It says, when respect is no longer served, it's time to leave the table. And we put that in our little 10 questionnaire that we sent out to guests. And I said, is that a true or false statement? And then somebody had the audacity, can you believe that? The audacity to ask me that question right back. Like, Neil, what do you think of that question? And I was like, that's not okay. That's not okay. It's not me. It's you. We're in your shoes, not my shoes. I'm still wrestling with that question. I feel like you were saying this, that words really are haunting. Yep. They kind of hang around. They linger around. They don't pass over into the next life. They just stick around. I've met people through this last 7 years of podcasting are still struggling with what mom and dad said to them when they were 5. They still reference back to the kid when they were 13 that said, Susie, you're fat. sucks.
It does. I still think about words that have been said. What I've learned in my forgiveness journey is that I can acknowledge that people are bad examples. And I can acknowledge that not everyone behaves well at every point in their life. And I can choose to say, I forgive you. And I will no longer hold on to that with this same grip. It's still there. It still visits. However, the sting and the harm, I think forgiveness, I might see it as a shield, a rubber shield. Words, they still visit, but they don't stick any longer. I just recognize we are all malformed, is a different way to say it. We're all imperfect. We do the best we can. I give people the benefit of the doubt and say, you're doing the best you can at that point in your journey. My parents, hard things happened in my childhood. Not unlike anybody else's childhood. We all have those stories. I harbored them for a long time, and it actually interfered my ability to have happiness in life. And I just decided, you know what? I'm done. I'm done being this angry, supposedly hardened human being made of steel, and whatever happened to me doesn't hurt me. Instead, I'm like, you know what? It hurt and it sucks, and I still think about it. However, I've stopped saying that that's defining me, or it's limiting my ability to be a better human than maybe somebody else. It was really helpful for me just to give them the benefit of the doubt. I just see him as, wow, you really sucked as a parent and you did the best you could. You weren't perfect. None of us are. And I'm not perfect. And I've done things and said things to people that I wish I hadn't have. And I try really hard going forward to just behave better. And that's the best that we can do. I'm still not perfect. I still say things on occasion, much less than I used to.
I think so many times in life, if we could just slow down and just zoom out, get a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And realize that maybe they didn't mean it in the moment. Maybe they didn't know how. Asking Helen Keller to do long division. She probably could figure it out. I'm not trying to be rude to Helen Keller, but it's my classic. No. She'd probably struggle to find it. Couldn't see. And you got to remember that. Using our word of the episode, perhaps, I don't like it. There's some malformation there. Maybe they didn't learn. Maybe somebody didn't teach them. And I love what you're saying, though, with the grace element. Grace and forgiveness feel like salt and pepper. Like they have to go together. They have to be on the table with each other. What would happen if you didn't have grace? Have you ever allowed your imagination just run amok on that for a sec? Like if you didn't have grace, if you didn't know what grace was, what would life look like for Heather in Iowa?
It would look like what life looked like in my 20s when I was very angry and everyone else was to blame and I was perfect. No one else behaved the way Heather thought they should, the way that Heather believed the world should be. I was wronged. My parents, my bosses, my coworkers, all idiots. Absolutely. All of them. I was brilliant and I knew what needed to happen. And when it didn't happen the way I thought it needed to, I was angry. You know what it would look like? It would look like a really sad, lonely place is what it would look like because I lived it. And I don't want to be there again. Don't like that space in my life anymore. And once you step out of it and you get some light and you get some lift from that heavy burden you're carrying, you don't really want to go back. You recognize a shift. I wish I could tell you that there's some other shortcut other than you're in charge of you, but you are. You are in charge of what you think. You are in charge of what record plays in your mind, and you're in charge of how you behave. That knowledge is what can transform you. Once you get that, you decide, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to have my revenge list. I was married to an alcoholic, and that's a hard place. And I went to a lot of therapy. Oh my goodness. I'm not a therapist, but I can certainly play one based on all the therapists I've seen in the city. She told me when I was so upset and so angry that I actually thought about how I could kill my husband because I was in so much pain. And I say this dramatically, I'm not alone. I'm sure many people have thought these thoughts. She said, Heather, it's okay you think them, just don't act on them. And that's a little bit laughable. There is a kind of anger and a hurt that causes your mind to go to a really dark place and to want revenge for people that have harmed us, hurt us in such a deep way. We see no other way out than they just need to be gone from my life. Wouldn't it be great if they got hit by a car today? Wouldn't it be great if they drank themselves to death? Tell you honestly, I don't remember what it was I thought of, but things like that would happen. I have a master's degree. I'm a fairly educated woman, church-going, normal girl, and I would go up to police officers and I would beg them to arrest my husband because he was drinking and drunk somewhere. And I thought, okay, if he just gets arrested, then that's going to work. Just this or just that. The control factor of it was so strong that I was sick, and learning to accept that, you know what, this isn't my fight. I need to turn these things over to God, and He is my partner in this. Everyone's in charge of them, and I'm not in charge of it, was such a release from that deep, dark anger of, oh, I just want this revenge for this person who's hurt me. It's pretty sick when I was there, and it was really great to get out of it, and I don't ever want to go back, ever.
You mentioned the 12-step program.
Yep.
You were a part of that?
Yes, I spent a lot of time when I was married. He's been gone now quite a long time, 15 years, 16 years this fall. That was what gave me some sanity to understand what was going on. It's really a pattern of success. I feel like every human being is addicted to something. It may just be controlling someone else. Think about that. There were really powerful lessons that I learned. And one of the things that really changed my behavior too, this concept that I needed to make amends. I heard that and instantly I said, I am done saying I'm sorry. And that shift, kind of like the bad example that I shared before, that shift really dramatically changed how I interacted with someone. So now if I say something and I intend to hurt you, boy, I really know what I'm doing. And I know the cost is I'm going to have to ask for forgiveness in the future. So I know what I'm doing and I must be really angry, or maybe I'm tired, or who knows. I really shifted my behavior because I thought, I don't want to say I'm sorry anymore. So I will choose to behave differently. And it changes how I act at work, changes how I act in my friendships, within my family. I keep my mouth shut a lot more than I ever did before. Really, most things I want to have a comment on aren't my business. It has shifted how I'm able to give people grace, because I recognize they just don't know this yet. And if they learned it, maybe they would behave differently too. And if they don't, that's really their problem. It's not mine.
I learned a valuable nugget. I don't always follow it. I had a guy that I would say, in all intents and purposes, I was probably bullying. In a corporate environment, I was always teasing him and kind of making fun of him. I thought we were joking and it was fine. And then one day he's told me, he said, you know, Neil, not everything in life requires a response from you. And I was like, whoa, that one stung, Tom. I don't like it when a yellow jacket bites me, but that's what that felt like. That one stung. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that sucks. Don't say that again. It has haunted me. Again, going back to your statement about words, that has haunted me. That phrasing, not everything in life, Neil, requires your response. I'm like, ooh, yeah. I don't like that. You mentioned the 12 steps. Now, to be candid, I've never been through the AA. I've never been through the Celebrate Recoveries programs to help folks get out of those addictive behaviors. I Googled it just now because I was curious, because again, I don't know them. Kind of skimming through as we're talking, and I come to number 8, which I find very, very interesting. Made a list.
Persons I've harmed.
Of all the persons I've harmed. And being willing to make amends to all of them. I didn't know that. AA, you're trying to steal my thunder here, okay? Come on.
Yeah, that's why I said lists. We love lists. It's a humbling experience. Part of my journey to forgive is I have to acknowledge my own wrongdoing. I have to acknowledge that I need to repent in my vernacular, to ask forgiveness and make amends to people I've harmed. Whoa. When you start to really think about that, I started doing this in my 30s, a couple decades past that now. It was really insightful to recognize my own poor behavior, to acknowledge that when I could ask forgiveness. You don't just say, well, I'm sorry I did that. You actually need to change. So it's not just saying, in the case of your friend at work, once he said that, you could have thought of all the things that you said. In therapy, I learned that sarcasm means to tear flesh, and I love sarcasm. Oh, it's so good. It's so fun, but it is not good in most cases. If you think about the things you've said, we might laugh and we might joke and we might think it's so much fun, but it hurts. It is, the word literally is to tear flesh. So, wow, that was insightful to me to change my behavior and how I spoke to people and how I acted. And it's also a defense mechanism, because when we've been in environments where we have trauma or we've been harmed in some way, shape, or form, sarcasm is a defense mechanism and we need it. There are times in our life where we need that to survive and to move forward emotionally. And once you get some recovery or some skills, you recognize I no longer need that. And I'm able to respond differently to people. I think sarcasm is so prevalent in our society. I mean, I still laugh at it. I still say it sometimes. You can have fun with it. But then there's that point, just like your friend who said, hey, you don't have to have a response every single time. And then you realize, whoa, we've stepped away from playing. This isn't playtime anymore. I've really hurt someone. And that means I have an obligation to say sorry and change and treat them differently going forward. And no one likes change really, unless it's their idea. Yes, that list is a start to understanding who I've harmed. Now, your list that we're talking about is a list of people that we feel have harmed us, which is a little bit different list. Still a list. And we will hope that they're making an 8-step list and they're going to say sorry to us. In reality, most of the people that I've had to forgive in my life have actually not sought that. Maybe because they're not here on earth any longer. Maybe because that's a conversation or a relationship that I've stepped away from. What was the quote about respect? Because respect's no longer present. So I have left. When there's no closure, it's really hard. In the case of my late husband's suicide, there's no note. There's conversation. There was no, oh, Heather, I'm so sorry for all these years of things that happened. All the times I didn't show up. All the words I said. All the times I misbehaved. There was none of that. And I had a choice. Well, could I just keep being angry, frustrated, and just like mad all the time? Sure, I could choose that. Lots of us choose that through different periods, but it wasn't serving me. Maybe that respect quote, it's, do I respect myself enough to want to cross people off that list? Do I respect myself and love myself enough that I'm going to give grace to me, to not hold this heavy hardness any longer and just say, wow, sucks to be them. They're really terrible people. Oh, well, I'm going forward.
Suicide's tough.
Yeah.
I think it is still one of the hardest topics we talk about on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I've had moms, kids who have had siblings that have committed suicide. I've had dads. When I started 7 years ago, I had the idea and the perception and the concept that I thought suicide was selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And now 7 years later, I don't know how I feel about it. I know for me, I haven't had anybody super close to me die of suicide. I've had some youth kids when I was in youth ministry. One was an adult, one was in high school. He wasn't in our youth group any longer. That's about as close as it's ever hit me. I haven't lost a friend or a relative or a parent. I definitely haven't lost my spouse to it. Did you blame yourself in any way?
I think that's a great question. You know what? I didn't, but this is why I didn't. Because we had a solid 7 years of 12-step meetings. I bet you we saw 7 different therapists in those years. I was able to learn and to understand that this was his choice. I went to a grief group right after, and there was a girl I remember whose brother had committed suicide. I think it was like 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, and she was crying heavier than I'm crying right now as I remember that. And I thought, holy cow. This is not the group for me, because I cannot continue to wonder or blame myself for his choice. I'm in charge of me. I came to understand and to hold that as a deeply held belief. Everyone is in charge. I think the hardest part for me, we were separated at the time. We had to be separated. Some of his behavior, it wasn't safe at our house with him there. And I loved him very much. I love him very much. And I wish the best for him. I knew he couldn't live with us. I have 2 children from my first marriage. It was their stepdad. I knew he couldn't live with us and get better. He could say, well, I have all these responsibilities at the house and it's too much and I can't focus. He was a very talented lawyer and had a very intense legal practice, a hard job. When it happened, it was actually the week of Thanksgiving that he chose to do this. And it was his career that was sort of encroaching. He missed court, and I literally don't know what was going on because this was a complete surprise. I actually thought he was getting better. He was getting better because he had a plan. The coroner did the report, and I got the death certificate in the mail. I saw that not only had he died by gunshots, he had taken a lethal dose of medicine, and that hit hardest because that wasn't a split second, oh, I'm in so much pain, I need to end my life. It was, I absolutely don't want to wake up even if I fail to hit my head where he shot himself. Graphic, hard stuff. And I had to acknowledge that as hard as that was, and of course I missed him, I was relieved that he wasn't in pain. Can't imagine the level of pain that a person would be in where they feel like the only way out is to not live and to actually go through with, in his case, swallowing medication, a lethal dose, as well as using a gun. I can't even imagine that. And I'm so grateful for that every day, that that's not a struggle that I have. A lot of people do. And I give them a lot of grace because it's not easy to manage that pain. No, I didn't blame myself. I would say a few moments of the would have, could have, should have game, that element of control. Oh, if I would have done this, or if I would have said that, or maybe if I'd never done this, or I'd never done that, then maybe he would have made a different choice. The fact is that it didn't matter what I did ever. It wouldn't have mattered what I had done or not done. I loved him completely in the way that I could, and I supported him through his recovery. But in the end, it was his choice to no longer live. And it was hard. It was a release because I wasn't going to leave him. We were going to continue in this marriage through a distance, through hard things, through great ups and great downs. I love roller coasters. Literally, I do. It's one of my favorite things. And boy, did I live a roller coaster life with that guy. Exciting highs and really, really crazy lows. Not uncommon for addictive relationship, for sure. It taught me some really beautiful things, and I'm grateful for that. Grateful for those lessons because it released me from the pain of being responsible for someone else, because I'm not. And I have a big enough job on my own. Let me tell you, I'm enough to manage. I don't need anything else to manage.
There's that line from The Office. I don't know if you're a fan of The Office, but Kelly's like, I manage my own department. And Jim's like, isn't it just you? I'm allowed to manage, Jim. I'm allowed to manage.
It's the truth. It's the truth, right?
I'm allowed to manage.
Yeah.
Heather, first off, thank you. Thank you for being willing to share that. I'm sorry I made you cry. I am, sort of, not really.
Oh, Neil, you're not responsible for me being human and having feelings.
I know, but if you cry in front of somebody, it's a sign of trust. That's what I was told.
Oh, yeah. I was told
good. That once.
Yes.
I don't know if it's true, but somebody told me that. Probably malformed in that. I malformed, not you're malformed in that. I look at life so many times, and maybe you do too, as a staircase. It feels like we go up one step, maybe back 2 steps. We get some gusto, we go up 7 steps, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna get the platform. All right. And then we realize there's more stairs. I feel like that is a little bit of forgiveness. Especially when we have some people in our lives on our list that are really hard. It's like, man, one day I am going to get to the end of it, into the staircase. And once and for all, I'm going to be able to forgive them. If you were going to summarize your forgiveness journey in 4 words, that's tough. I know, 4 words. What would those 4 words be? And maybe it's a mantra, like a bumper sticker or, maybe something catchy and zingy. You're working. I can see the percolator going.
I am. I'm thinking. I got to think just a minute. 4 words is tough. My forgiveness journey is choose to be grateful for everything. Was that 4?
Yeah. Choose to be grateful.
Yes.
That's 4.
Choose to be grateful. There is magic in gratitude. And there is magic in recognizing part of my forgiveness journey and framework I realized is to God in my story everywhere. Even the hard, even the ugly, there's a lesson and there is something to be grateful for. I think that's been transformative for me too, is no matter what happens to us, again, be grateful for the bad example. Be grateful that you know that you're doing your best and you're choosing to move forward to not harm someone else, even if they've harmed you. You always have that choice. I think sometimes we mistake the concept of control, think that we should control other people and make them behave the way that we want them to. But in fact, that's detrimental. And give people the grace that, it's their journey. It's their life. Let them live it the way they choose. Because you choose to live differently than me doesn't mean I need to hate you. Just because you're wearing flip-flops when you should be wearing boots doesn't mean that I need to think you're a jerk or stupid. But we know they are. No,
yes,
they're not
do.
stupid. They just make different choices, right? But the idea is we're in charge of ourselves. We behave badly just as much as other people behave badly. And we have to give ourselves grace just like we have to give them grace. And when we learn that, I promise you'll be happier. You'll laugh more. You'll have joy. You'll be able to see the positive in life. And it's not that it's Pollyanna. I've actually had someone ask me, are you as happy as you pretend to be? I thought about it. Kind of like you don't have to respond to everything. I was like, I'm not pretending. Trust me, when I say I've had a hard life, I have those stories. I once had an interview where the lady's like, you sound like you've had a Pollyanna life. I was wearing a charm bracelet at the time and I had a Titanic charm because I'm obsessed with the Titanic story. I love it. I held up my bracelets and I said, oh, I've worked on lots of Titanics. I just haven't gone down with the ship. Another moment of, I'm going to tell you things are positive because I'm going to see them that way. And I'm going to make that viewpoint, but it's because I'm in charge of me. And I don't want to say that life's miserable or ugly or someone else is responsible for how I'm feeling because I'm in charge of that. It's taken me a long time to learn that, by the way. This is something that's easy. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it's worth it.
My friend Anna says quite often, worry about your own self.
Yep. Amen.
And the first time she said, I was like, but I'm supposed to worry about other people. And she's like, but are you? If you can't worry about your own self, who are you supposed to worry about? And she's like, but what? I'm like, I don't know. I got nothing. I got no response, which is usually pretty rare. Usually I have a response or a retort or a sarcastic statement. You're making me rethink all of my sarcasm that I say. And my wife actually says sarcasm is her love language. So now she's really going to really push on this show. So I don't know.
And that's totally okay. That is totally okay.
Right, because she's in charge of her own self.
She is.
She has a T-shirt that says sarcasm is my love language. So that's the wackier part. Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
All right. Well, Heather, I heard there's a book. Did my people tell me correctly that there's a book? Tell me about the book. Why write the book? Favorite chapter that you loved writing the book, and hardest chapter about the book.
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
So the book title, Unwrapping Forgiveness, The Gift of Mercy and Grace. Why I wrote the book, I've known I needed to write a book for a while. I didn't know the topic of it. I used to think it was going to be called Living with Crazy and Loving Through It, related to my late husband. That wasn't in the cards. My mom had always wanted to write a book, and she died a little over 4 years ago now. Dementia. She had some fun stories at the end. Let's just say that. Most of which weren't probably true. And I kind of think sometimes, what am I going to make up when I'm old and demented? It was a fun little game we'd play, my siblings and I. Not to make light of dementia. It's horrible. I don't wish it on anyone. That was part of it. Plus, I feel a calling to share this story so that other people don't have to spend all the years being burdened with hard things. On the outside, appearing happy, and on the inside, being miserable because you're holding on to this heavy, heavy stuff that you could never deal with on your own. That's the why. And it was cathartic. It was really helpful to write the book. Favorite chapter, talking about forgiving myself, looking at the person in the mirror and finding grace. I think that was my favorite chapter because that's the end of the journey. Like, okay, this is how I am, and this is how we can forgive ourselves, and you can see yourself in a different light and all these things. And so that was nice. I liked getting to that part of the story. The harder parts, I wrote a chapter about my dad and a chapter about my mom. And those were probably hard. They're both gone now. So I feel very good that I can write those chapters. You know, they're not here to read it or judge it or disagree with it. It was hard to go back and sort of think about that little girl who was so hurt for how her parents treated her. And it wasn't necessarily horrible. Common stories of neglect, selfishness, and all the things that parents do sometimes. So that was hard. It's cathartic and helpful. And I really do feel, as silly as it may sound, like this works. I can definitively say to you, here's all this hard stuff I dealt with. And I can tell you that I truly love these people. And I've released them with mercy and grace because I've forgiven. And I don't get held down by those horrible, horrible feelings anymore. Feelings of inadequacy, of shame, I'm not good enough. I mean, we can make a long list of all those feelings we feel when we don't forgive and we hold on to those hard words that still play on repeat. And for me, it's an LP record with the needle stuck. So I'm dating you.
Where can people go to get the book?
It will be available on Amazon.
Heather, before we go and play our silly little game, because you've clearly had some crocodile tears, and I feel like we need to have some levity, and it seems like you like to have fun. And I know you hate games like sports games. This is not a sports game that we're going to play, so you're off the hook there. Before we go, you said something during your book talk that I feel like we need to circle back to.
Okay.
What would it have meant to you to have mom and dad, maybe separately, come over and give Heather a hug and maybe whisper in her ear, "You're worthy"?
Aha. It'd be beautiful. It'd be priceless.
Yeah.
For sure. And they're doing that all the time in my mind now because I've forgiven them. They're different people now. That's how it works. Delusions can be anything you want them to be.
Well, and I say quite often, I stole it from a really awesome guy named NF, rapper. Some say he's a Christian rapper. I don't know what he is, but he's a rapper. And he has the classic line of feelings can give wrong directions. And I absolutely believe that. My feelings are in charge and only in charge and getting to drive the car. They're not listening to Siri or whoever. They're taking over the GPS. So I have to remember that when I'm in the midst of the moment. Are my feelings giving wrong directions right now? Are they telling me the wrong things to do or the wrong places to go? But again, I feel like forgiveness is this journey of a staircase, and that idea of we just got to keep going up the stairs. As it may feel like it's going nowhere, we got to continue to take the stairs.
You do. And there isn't an escalator. It's probably slow. You're probably going to be out of breath and you'll probably fall down a few times, but give yourself grace and get up and do it again.
Yeah.
It gets easier. It does get easier as you practice it. You'll find that you want, like I said, you'll want that light. You'll recognize it feels good. And you'll think, wow, I've noticed as I've worked on this, that things that happen now, I can forgive much more quickly. The time period has really shortened from years to days, maybe hours, sometimes minutes, depending on the wrong done to me.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right. Well, Heather, let's play the fastest growing game in the podcast community. It's called Heel Hustle. My good friend Zach is going to tell us more about that. Zach, please take it away.
Now it's time to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. As you know, it's called Heel Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Heather, your childhood celebrity crush was who?
Harrison Ford.
Wow. What is your secret talent?
Riding roller coasters and not getting sick.
All right. Seems like a talent. One person you would trade places with for a year?
No one.
All right. That is a popular answer. Weirdest job you've ever had?
I was a chipper for Chi-Chi's restaurants, meaning I delivered chips through tables.
Nice. Okay. Biggest risk you've ever taken so far?
Getting married a few times.
Wow. All right, here we go. Who needs a hug from Heather today and why?
Everyone. I'm a great hugger.
Nice job. Under the wire. Look at that. You survived. Well, Heather, I just want to say, truly, thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure to meet you. One day, maybe I'll get to Iowa. Hopefully. Probably not, but maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
Really, I just want to say thanks so much for being here today and allowing us
welcome.
To walk in your shoes. So
sorry for the blubbering. I think you kind of were hoping that there'd be an emotional moment if I remember our first conversation.
I never, ever say that. I never ask a question hoping it makes someone cry. I mean, if it does, then that's like a feather in my cap. No, I promise you. I never intend to make people cry. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you.
Welcome.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike. That is it. That is all. That is, in fact, our show today. Listen, those of you that are married right now, like, wave your hand around. Like, wave that left hand around. Maybe just for like a second. 90s had that great band. I know. Naughty by Nature. Nobody's admitting that they listened to that, I'm sure. No one. But they did have that song that said hip hop hooray, ho, and you kind of waved your hand back and forth. That's what I want you to do with your left hand right now. Wave it around like you just don't care. Now that you're done with that and you look silly, think about this for a second. Can you imagine? I mean, maybe you don't want it because it's maybe too dark, too scary. Imagine that loved one does something just horrific. Can you forgive them? What's the level of I won't forgive at this level? Here's the level, here's the line. Once that line is crossed, it's over, it's done. Do you have that? I hope not. I hope there's still a level that we can still say, hey, we might not be together, okay, but we can forgive. I think is still the hardest part of our journey right now that we're still walking through is how do we forgive? How quick do we forgive? It's still hard. Is forgiveness still hard for you today? I think Heather gave us some insight, some good tips, but I want to know, is it still hard for you? Let me know. OPSpodcast.com is a great place to let me know. You can let me know, of course, on the socials at OPS Podcast Show on our Facebook, Instagram, and X. And of course, don't forget this, so important before we go. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to thank you so much for listening. And stay tuned till next week when, guess what? That's right, we're going to walk in other people's shoes.